Okay, so now we will discuss more about the COSO internal control framework. And as mentioned, actually COSO started in the US, and COSO means Committee of Sponsoring Organization of the Treadway Commission. Yon. So COSO help organizations design and implement internal control in light of many changes in business and operating environments, broaden the application of internal control in yada yada yada. Okay, so as you can see, this is the COSO is what we are using now is 2013. Technically, it's 2020 now, so 7 years na yung framework or the guideline. But as you can see, this is still prevalent. Most companies are using this framework, this COSO framework for the internal control. Kasi, to be honest ako, this is my personal opinion. COSO framework is really easy to understand. At the same time, it's flexible. So, by understanding more of this, so we will discuss this later, you'll understand more kung bakit ganito yung structure niya, bakit uh, it starts with control environment, bakit kailangan mag sa monitoring, and so on. Okay? So, as we have discussed for the objectives of internal control, we have discussed it earlier about the generic understanding of the objectives of an internal control. This time naman, this is for the COSO framework. So in a nutshell, this is how are you going to understand more of it sa objective ng internal control. So una is the operations. We have understand from previous slides that we need to learn the economical, efficiency, and effectiveness. We deeply understand yung pinagkaiba ng dalawa and why this objective is really important. So una, it helps the company or it helps the organization achieve the entity's mission. So we have learned from the governance that it actually starts with understanding and establishing yung mission ng company, knowing the purpose of the company. So with that, by understanding more yung objective natin sa operations, dapat si company, the way internal control system helps, dapat ina-achieve niya yung mission, dun papunta. And then, another one is safeguard of assets. So, this is part of the operations as well. Since if you're part of the management, you make sure that you take care of the assets that the company own. Therefore, dapat sinisafeguard yon. Dapat ini-ensure ng internal control na yung mga assets are covered by the internal control system. Then, second one is reporting. So, sa reporting, we have discussed some of this, yung reliability, timeliness, transparency, financial and non-financial information. We have discussed the previous slides. It focuses on the financial side, but for COSO, it's not just financial, even also the non-financial information that is essential for the business owners since they will use it for their decision making. So we need to ensure that the financial and non-financial information are reliable, timely, and transparent. Prepared for the use by the organization and stakeholders. So, of course, we need to communicate yung results ng company in terms of financial and non-financial performance. So, the stakeholders like the creditors, the owners, the government, and other parties that has a care for the company, they need to know this information and they need to ensure that everything is reliable, timely, and then transparent. And then lastly, we have the objective for compliance. So it talks about the laws, rules, and regulations that is set by that set minimum standards of conduct. So we have discussed this also from the previous slide na it we should follow the regulations of the law of the land and also the rules and regulations of the company. That is why the internal control system needs to ensure that the organization or the company as a whole is in compliance with the prevailing um, laws, regulations, and rules that is covered by the company. Okay? So in a nutshell, ang point lang naman nitong tatlo, for you to ensure that internal control system is effective, is it's also doing the job of the internal control system, dapat leading towards to sa tatlong objectives natin. So yung operations, reporting, and compliance. Sorry about that. So this time, we're gonna talk about yung components and principles ng internal control. So the first one, medyo tatagal tayo sa slide na to. So sa first one, we have this control environment. So sa control environment, yung mga principles niya is number one, demonstrate commitment to integrity and ethical values. Number two is exercises oversight responsibility, establishes structure, authority responsibility, demonstrates commitment to competence. And number five, enforces accountability. So let's go one by one. So bakit nga ba nag-start tayo sa control environment? For us to build, for us to know the context of the company, for us to know more of the company, we need to build. How does the company view yung control? What's the perspective of the company in terms of control? That is why we need to start here. Ano nga ba ang thinking ng mga tao sa control? We need to understand more of its control environment. So, first one is demonstrate commitment to integrity and ethical values. We understand that, as per the code of ethics, is integrity is more than being honest, diba? And it's also pertaining na when no one is watching, you're still doing the right thing. And ethical values as well. So, imagine a company that values integrity and the other principles and other ethical values that are good for the company. Imagine the company is valuing it, and at the same time the personnel and the staff the whole members of the company are also abiding, following this commitment or this yung mga integrity and other ethical values. Imagine, 'di ba? Doon siya magsisimula eh. You have this culture, eh. You have this ethical culture. You know that the ethical culture is really solid. Sorry about that. Really solid and really good. So, ang pino-point out dito, it starts there. How you value yung values ng company. Second one is exercises oversight responsibility. So this time, dapat ina-ensure ng internal control system sa control environment na may oversight responsibility. Ngayon, sino kaya itong tinutukoy niya? So as we have learned from the governance, meron tayong two major components. We have the strategic direction and oversight. So, it talks about the oversight function of the government. The governance. Governance. It ensures dapat yung board exercising the governance function, ni-ensure niya dapat nag-oversight siya aside from understanding, valuing the ethics, valuing the how is the ethical culture of the company. So dapat si board ini-ensure din na ino-oversight niya talaga. Merong oversight, merong supervision, merong someone that overseeing the whole operations of the company, which is si board yon. Next one, establishes structure, authority, and responsibility. So, dito, ini-ensure mo dapat sa isang company, dapat meron kang lines, meron kang reporting function, meron kang reporting lines, in a way na it's hierarchical, hanggang sa dapat ma-identify mo sino yung mga accountable, sino yung may authority, at sino dapat yung pinaka-head or sino yung nag-oversee talaga, yung pinasa taas. So dito dapat si board na ina-ensure niya dapat may structure, dapat ina-understand na ina-ensure ng internal control system also for the control environment yung authority ng different levels of the organization and responsibility as well. The fourth one demonstrates commitment to competence. So, aside from the integrity, dapat yung mga tao mo is leading toward to excellence, leading towards to the competence wherein you make sure that the people behind are really good, are really leading towards to the excellence and doing their work. And then the fifth one is enforces accountability. So, aside from your being responsible, dapat accountable ka rin. Dapat if ano man yung mangyari for what you're handling, you will do, you will own it, you will do the next step for that. Aside from that, ito yung base sa ano namin. So, what we practice in my company. When we say controlled environment, when we are auditing branches or sometimes learning centers or sometimes other departments of if you're auditing head office, you make sure that the unit personnel or the staff possess integrity and promote high ethical standards, and you make sure that they are motivated, properly trained, and they understand their role in the system of control process. Authority and responsibility are clear, properly assigned and documented. Available resources are organized and maximized. So the way we conduct our audit, the way we assess yung control environment, usually ang ginagawa namin dito, we understand, we provide this what we call the information sheet. So doon kami mag-establish understanding yung responsibilities ng mga staff, ng mga officers, yung mga personnel ng isang branch or a specific department. After that, you need to interview yung mga heads, understanding how they view yung business unit na yon o yung department na yon, and then understanding more if they are more motivated. So makikita mo yung turnover, if the turnover or yung resignation nung specific position is really high, so there must be a problem. So you're understanding deeper more than that. Also, what we're doing under the control environment, we make sure that the personnel are attending training sessions na relevant sa business unit nila. So like in our what we do in the branch, syempre it's a financial, I'm from the financial institution. So we make sure dapat we follow AMLA. Yes, AML. Anti-money laundering, anti-money laundering related na laws and regulations. We make sure dapat yung mga personnel is attending not just training sessions, also even e-learning. We also ensure that they also attended the data privacy training sessions and the likes. So as you can see, it's kind of to be honest, it's really kind of hard to understand more of the control environment, and again, it's kind of high level kasi. But the point lang naman ito, for you to go on, for you to proceed to other components of internal control, dapat kay control environment pa lang, may establish mo na how they view yung internal control. So with that, you will move on the next step. So the next component is risk assessment. So as we have understand risk assessment from the previous videos, it's understanding yung impact and yung likelihood ng specific risks, and then we prioritize syempre sa yung mga high risk. So with that, here are the principles. So number 6 is specify suitable objectives, identifies and analyzes risks, assesses fraud risks, and then number 9, identifies and analyzes significant change. So let's start. So sa 6, specify suitable objectives. So if you're gonna compare with the control environment, ito na yung connecting factor niya leading towards to risk assessment. You're understanding yung ethical culture, how the board is toning the top, and even the senior management is viewing how internal control system works. So with that, sa risk assessment, we call it in bank RAP, risk assessment process. Anyway, so sa risk assessment, so we need to establish yung mga objectives of specific business unit or department. And then after nun, syempre, once you have understand yung context, once you have identified yung specific objectives, so this time naman, you'll understand more and you will dig deeper to identify and you can analyze yung risks. Yon. It's kind of the same. Actually, it's the same with the risk management process that we had from the previous videos. It's just that, remember, this focuses on the risk reduction. Aside from the ibang strategies sa risk management, this time, risk reduction ang focus. It's the same with the internal control system. So aside from that, you need to also to assess if ever may mga fraud risk ba, since ang yeah, sige, ayoko na bigyan kayo ng idea. We will talk about more of this sa fraud risk sa next slide muna. So ihang muna kayo dyan, okay? And then number 9, identifies and analyzes significant change. So you need to understand deeper if may mga significant change ba for the for a specific business unit or the whole entity. You'll understand baka kasi may mga external risks that can affect the business unit or the whole organization as well. So there. Kami in the branch or kami in the bank. How we do it, dapat we assess dapat si branch or yung specific department. Risk facing the organization are identified, continually evaluated and managed. Ang amin dito, the way we assess this, dapat merong proactiveness si branch or si unit na dapat i-identify yung risks, dapat nire-report nila to sa second line, and dapat nagkakonduct sila ng risk assessment or we call it the RCSA, Risk and Control Assessment, o on an annual basis. Dapat may identify nila yung mga top 5 risks na yan, and doon sila magpo-focus. Aside from that, kapag may nangyaring possible fraud or red flags pa lang, dapat nire-report yun sa higher management. And dapat monitor yun. So, ganun namin ina-assess yung risk assessment sa bank. Okay? So, next one, we have the third one, control activities. Actually, sa control activities yung pinakamarami, the way we do it in a bank, dito na kasi yung control per se. So, we will know more about it sa next videos. So, here, number 10, selects and develops control activities. Selects and develops general control over technology. 12, deploys through policies and procedures. Okay, in a nutshell, ito na yung risk reduction mong mga strategies. Ito na yun, implementation part na. So from understanding yung context, yung ethical culture, going to pinpoint yung objective ng business unit, and then identify yung risks, analyzing and then assessing yung high risks, and then considering yung fraud risk, and then if ever may mga changes, this time, dito ka na mag-establish ng mga controls mo. So, what we do it in the bank, dito dapat na ma-manage yung identified, yung mga risk identified are managed, then it's integral part of the branch or the unit's daily operations. So, ang mga examples nito, mga reviews, physical controls, establish compliance with regulations and policies and procedures, approvals, authorizations, verification, reconciliation, and segregation of duties. The way we do it, kapag nag-audit kami ng branch, eto na yung control per se nga. So, like example, in a bank, we're checking if they are doing 2 verification signatures, if they are doing the procedures on cash count, or piece count, and if they're also providing or showing to the client if they're doing the piece count on with the presence of the client. We're also checking if there is a two combinations in opening yung mga vaults or yung mga main vaults or yung mga cash vaults and so on. So I won't discuss much kasi nasa second video or next video natin yung focus sa control activities. Okay?